All right, let's dive right into this explainer and completely demystify how our everyday choices actually shape the goods market. Microeconomics can sometimes feel a bit abstract, but at its core, it's really just the study of our daily decisions. Today, we're unpacking the fundamental forces that dictate the prices and quantities of, well, literally everything around us: demand, supply, and their real-world collision.
So, first up, a question for you. Do you demand a sports car or do you just kind of want one? Let's bust a major myth right off the bat here. Simply wanting something without the actual intent or the financial means to buy it is absolutely not market demand. A want is basically just a wish. In economics, true demand requires action, intent, and the resources to back it up. Section 1. The Goods Market Ecosystem. An introductory overview. To really wrap our heads around demand, we first need to look at the broad economic machine where prices and quantities are actually figured out. It's like a giant, continuous loop between households. That's us, the purchasers, and firms, who are the suppliers. These two groups are locked in this constant, interconnected dance. Households provide factors of production, like our labor, to firms in exchange for income. And then we turn right around and use that exact same income to demand goods from those very same firms. Right there, in that cycle, is where markets are born. Section 2. Real market demand. Defining the concept. Zooming in on the household side of that ecosystem, let's see what economic demand actually looks like in practice. As we touched on, true economic demand requires both the intention to buy a product and the actual means to do so. Demand refers specifically to the quantities of a good or service that potential buyers are willing and able to purchase. Missing the money? Yeah, not demand. Have the cash burning a hole in your pocket but absolutely no intent to buy the thing? Also not demand. You literally have to check both boxes. Plus, demand isn't just a static snapshot. Saying you demand 2 slabs of chocolate means absolutely nothing to an economist unless we know if that's per day, per week, or per month. Demand is fundamentally a flow concept. It's based on what you plan to buy over a specific period of time, not just one isolated transaction. Because it is this structured, measurable flow, economists can track and express this demand in a few different ways. We can use basic words, numbered tables, which are often called schedules, visual graphs, and even mathematical equations. It's all the exact same data, just providing a different lens to view and analyze that exact same consumer behavior. To make this super concrete, let's look through the eyes of a fictitious shopper. Meet Ann Smith. She's a single mother buying tomatoes for her family. By looking closely at Ann's individual household demand, we can start piecing together how the macro market functions. Because really, the wider market is just thousands of individuals making choices exactly like Ann. Section 3. Influencing demand. What drives choices? So, what exactly dictates how many tomatoes Ann decides to toss into her shopping cart on any given day? Well, 3 primary variables influence her decision. First, the price of the tomatoes themselves, which economists call PX. Second, the prices of other related goods, known as PY. And third, her overall income, represented by the letter Y. Let's break those last 2 down a bit further to see how they directly impact her grocery run. Looking at related goods in the real world, Ann might substitute tomatoes for pineapple in her fruit salad if prices suddenly jump, making pineapple what we call a substitute good. Or she might buy a complementary good, something like lettuce, to go specifically with her tomatoes in a garden salad. Her demand for tomatoes is completely tied to the prices of both those substitutes and complements. Her income dictates demand too. If her income increases and she buys more tomatoes along with most other regular groceries, they're considered a normal good. But, and this is interesting, if her income increases and she suddenly buys fewer tomatoes because she can now afford something she considers pricier or fancier, tomatoes suddenly become what economists call an inferior good to her. Section 4. The demand curve. Decoding the graph. Okay, let's visualize how the price of the tomatoes themselves affects Ann's buying habits when we map it out visually. Think about a downward-sloping demand curve. It maps out the exact inverse relationship between price and quantity. If we start at a point in the middle and the price goes up, Ann is obviously going to buy fewer tomatoes, right? So that moves us up the slope. Conversely, a drop in price allows her to demand a lot more, sliding us right down the curve. This builds an absolutely crucial economic rule. A change in the tomato's price simply causes a sliding movement along the existing curve. It only changes the quantity demanded. But a change in those other factors we talked about, like our income or the price of pineapples, that physically picks up and shifts the entire line to the left or the right. That represents a fundamental shift in overall demand, not just a reaction to a price tag on a shelf. So, we've thoroughly explored Anne's individual household demand. We know exactly how variables like price, substitutes, and her income completely dictate her choices. But remember that goods market ecosystem? It's a continuous loop. How are the firms on the supply side going to react to her choices? How do they decide what price to set or how many tomatoes to actually grow and stock in response? What happens when the unstoppable force of consumer demand meets the immovable object of market supply?